Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Care Sandwich. I'm so excited to have Rosa join us here in a second on our virtual stage. She is an attorney, and we were sharing some stories, and she practices a really fun area of the law. And I'm going to have her tell you all about her law firm, what she does, and share her amazing story with you. But first, take a look at this video.
Welcome to Care Sandwich, the podcast where we dive into the success journeys of law firm owners across the country. I'm Margarita Eberline, your host and the founder of Marketing Boss, a fractional chief marketing officer firm for law firms. On this show, we'll explore the challenges, strategies, and victories that have shaped law firms and how they wrap every interaction with care. Because we believe that caring isn't just a value, it's a strategy for success. So grab your favorite sandwich, sit back, and let's dig into a conversation filled with insight, inspiration, and of course, a lot of care.
Welcome to the stage, Rosa Villa Esquire. Come on up. Tell us your story. What you doing? Where you at? What do you do in this world for the law and for your clients?
Well, first and foremost, I'm super grateful to be here today. Thank you so much, Margarita, for being in touch with me and introducing me to the world of legal marketing in reality. So as I mentioned to you before when we spoke previously, I just opened my firm. I'm a solo practitioner practicing in Florida. I launched officially September 1st, made the decision about 2 weeks prior. So it was a bit of a all hands on deck. I'm doing this. I'm committing to this. Now is the right time more than ever. And I got an office down the street from me, incorporated employment law, which is what I'm trained in doing, and then also intellectual property, which is what I wanted to do when I was in law school. It was my first legal love, if you will. And it's been a few months, and everything's been really, really amazing. It's been such a great journey. Client acquisition, business development, and networking are things that I think law school doesn't technically teach you very well, but that you have to learn very quickly as a solo practitioner. And I've definitely put my extroversion and communication skills to the test for sure during this process. And it's been really, really fulfilling. I am for the first time an entrepreneur and a startup owner, which I never ever thought I was going to do. And this is the very beginning of what I hope is going to be a very, very prosperous and long ride and journey.
I love it. I seldom get to interview law firm owners at this, I'm going to call honeymoon phase, where you're like, yeah, I'm doing it, right? Walk us through what got you from being an attorney and practicing to actually doing this on your own. Like, what was that? Like, tell us the story. Like, what was that moment? Like, how did it feel? Because I bet there might be people listening that are like, I'm thinking about it. Maybe they can relate to your story.
So I think a few different things. I got to the point where I felt like I was sufficiently trained as a practicing 5-year junior attorney. I felt like, well, you always wanted to incorporate intellectual property into your practice. The firms that you're working at are not going to allow you to do that. And you've tried to kind of practice in your own way and bring in clients in your own way, and you've been rebuffed by former firms that you've worked at. Maybe this is a sign from the world that you need to open up. And so really what I wanted to do was come back to IP. I felt like I was so far removed from law school into my current practice that I thought, well, I think it's too late to pivot back. I think, applying to a new practice area or applying to a different firm to get back into IP is going to be practically impossible for me. The best idea was open up your own shop and take what you already know that you've practiced in as a licensed attorney, which is employment law on the employer defense side, and weave in IP. And it's been pretty seamless because a lot of the clients that I've represented are small business owners like myself, entrepreneurs, startup owners who need a bevy of IP protections, like registering their trademarks, registering their copyrights, doing licensing agreements, preparing their employment agreements to make sure that they tighten up their trade secret clauses and protections. And so there was just a natural crossover of both practices and dedications that I thought, yeah, this is the time to do it. I have a pretty strong network base of both attorneys, creatives, and techies in Miami, thankfully, and that's ever so building and growing as we speak. And I'm like, you know what? Why don't you just pull out of that resource toolkit and see where it takes you? Open up your firm and, put on a smile and do the hard work, and hopefully you'll get a lot of clientele. And it's happened so far, just the way that I imagined it. So we'll see.
Well, I'm honored that I get to give you a space to share your story. This is one of the reasons why I launched this podcast, because I think that marketing can get so intimidating, so overwhelming, and that there are many really good attorneys that either are not advertising or not advertising enough, or just really don't know how to get started. And I love giving this sort of content away to attorneys like yourself. And just to recap what I heard you say, you had a vision for what your legal career should look and feel like. You made an effort to experience that through other opportunities and found that you had a choice to make. It was either do it their way or do it your way. And this was really a deciding factor for you to do it on your own. And I think that that passion that you have is going to take you very, very far, because one of the things that I've noticed is when attorneys do the work that an attorney does, it doesn't always translate into entrepreneurship as seamlessly as you would think, because it's a completely different set of skills. And it can be brutal to figure out the hard way how to run a business when you have so much intellect and so much training in like a skill. And I really admire you for having taken that leap and for very, humbly, like, talking about that. Yeah, like this is hard, right? But then you have this dream and you're going for it and you're just going to figure it out. So walk us through, what are some of the things that you've learned already? Again, just thinking about if an attorney is listening and they can relate to your story, I want them to have the blueprint, right? So you gave us the first part of the blueprint of how do you decide if entrepreneurship is for you. Now give us the blueprint of what are 3 things, just keep it simple, 3 things that you've already learned about business and the business of law that you would love to share with our audience.
Certainly networking. It really can make or break you, which is also connected to your reputation, taking care of your reputation, allowing your reputation to flourish. The more you get out there, the more people know that you exist, especially in the legal community. So definitely networking is number 1. Marketing, which is why this conversation makes so much sense and it's so strong. Like I mentioned, we don't learn this in law school. And sure, the legal practice aspect of it is kind of, it's part of our daily bread, but creating content, being out there on social media, having a strong website presence, having ads, all of these things I've never even thought to think about ever in my practicing career until now. And it's been a huge challenge. And I think for anybody wanting to go solo and open your own firm, I would look for people that are dedicated in doing,
Yes.
and doing content creation, launching websites, graphic designers, all of that, because the best way, not the only way, but the best way of getting clients is by telling the world that you exist. If the world doesn't know you exist, it doesn't matter how many services or how great of a service you provide. Especially if you're doing this on your own and you don't have someone who's constantly giving you referrals, which goes back to my first point. Your network is most usually going to get you strong client referrals. The majority of my employment cases have come from referrals from law school friends, a lawyer, employment attorney who I met at a networking event, who I ended up signing an of counsel agreement with. all of these connections come back to you. So networking, marketing yourself, and I'd say also building your own brand and building your own brand and going out there and looking for the niche of clients that you want, because now's the time to decide really who you want to service your legal expertise to. So thinking about who your client base is something that, again, I've never had to think about, because law firms give you a steady stream of clients and cases. Now I have to go and hunt for my own. And so that's been a really, really interesting lesson. And I'm still crafting what that looks like for me, for real.
Hey there, I hope you're enjoying the conversation and your sandwich as much as we are. I want to take a moment to share a few words about our sponsor, Marketing Boss. If you're a law firm owner looking to supercharge your growth, our team at Marketing Boss is here to help. We've got over a decade of experience and a proven track record, and we specialize in growing law firms like yours with data-driven marketing leadership. So if you own a law firm and you're ready to get a predictable, steady flow of cases from your marketing, let's connect at marketing-boss.com.
And you probably will be for a while. So I just have to say, I am so impressed, because many attorneys don't figure this out until like year 5 or year 10. You are so wise. I will point out a couple of things that stood out to me that I'm surprised that at this stage you've already figured out the value of niching down. And you're going to be doing it for a while, because like my experience, for example, is I niche down to attorneys, and then I even niche down to like personality, sense of humor. Like you're going to continue to figure out like who lights you up, like as you go. But the fact that you're already thinking that, because many law firm owners, especially when they're just starting out, they resist that because they're like, oh, I don't want to exclude. I just want to take all, and take everyone. So I love that. So I wanted to reiterate that, because that's so valuable. I think that anybody listening that can relate to your story can benefit from that highlight. The other thing that you talked about is networking. People forget networking is also a form of marketing. Now, if you want to add gasoline to your networking fire, combine it with automation. This is probably going to be the next thing that you're going to learn that's going to set you ahead of the curve. Imagine going to a networking event and meeting 50 people and not following up with any. That's what a lot of people do when they're networking. They're like exchanging cards and following each other on LinkedIn and doing all these things. When you have automation systems in place to do things like follow up automatically with email and text, or even invite people to, be a part of something, like maybe download an ebook or something like that. Now you're leveraging automation on top of the personal. You never get rid of the personal, right? Like I go to some networking events and there are some people that I just want to talk to tomorrow, right? So you follow up with those, you text them with your cell and all that. But you get to a point where you're doing this so much that it becomes inefficient. Like you're burnt out, you're living off of coffee because you're going to networking events and you're getting nowhere because you don't have the automation. So my marketing crystal ball tells me that's going to be the next piece of wisdom you're going to incorporate into your law firm. And yeah, and
I feel like that's been the past 2 weeks has been running into a wall between, obviously I have to do deep client work, but then also feeling like, well, this is just another day that you haven't pushed out content and that you haven't reminded your followers or the world that you exist. How are you going to balance both of those things? And, I thankfully reached out to a content creator who is going to film. I think I told you this last week, is going to, do some content videos for me so I can reach that ideal niche clientele that I want to connect with. I can't do that on my own. And eventually I'd like to get to a point where I have a newsletter where I automatically also can publish content that I've prepared, but that I don't have time to kind of curate or put together or resize or edit, because that takes an entire 3 days of my time that I need to dedicate to client work. And so that's the next frontier. And it's a huge challenge that I think, again, if you're a startup or a lawyerpreneur, if you will, don't put yourself down with those details in the beginning, because it might keep you from wanting to make the leap. But be mindful of it at every step. I mean, it's going to be inevitable. Like I think I touched upon this last week when we spoke. Social media and technology is here to stay. There's really no point in pushing against it. What you need to do is leverage your strengths and use it to your advantage, to your business's advantage, or whatever goal you're trying to accomplish with your startup, with your business. And that's done. I've never pushed against it. I've really welcomed it, but it's a huge challenge because it's not as easy as just posting random legal content and hoping that somebody sees that. If you're not getting clients in that entire process, it's not as fruitful as as it should be. And so that's right now where I'm re-strategizing my content strategy so I can have a higher client acquisition and not just kind of remind the world that I exist. I want people to call the office, schedule a consultation.
Yeah, and you mentioned something that's really interesting, that you have this vision of where you want to get and things that you want to address, but it sounds to me like you're giving yourself some grace and just starting where you're at. And I think that if somebody's listening, that's a very important nugget as well. The important thing is to just take that next step and not get so overwhelmed. I can definitely relate. When I first started, my business, I didn't have like a whole marketing team or anything either. And I'm a marketer, right? So I can definitely relate to that feeling of, oh my gosh, I know ideally I want it to be like this, right? Now I have an amazing, video production team so that my high-end content, I have like professional people that can make it. But at first it was just me and this guy, right? Like it is what it is. Like we just did it. So yeah, start where you're at. Rosa, I love everything that you're dropping. Such good wisdom. I'm going to ask you to repeat, what case types can you handle and how can people get a hold of you? Because I want you to get a ton of new business from, people watching this podcast, whether it's referrals or business owners that need what you do. Walk us through that bullet list, and then how can people get in touch with you?
Of course. So I'm an employment lawyer and an IP attorney. Those are the two practices that my firm is dedicated to. I represent employees with wrongful termination or discrimination claims, anything under the employment law umbrella. And I also represent companies, small businesses on advice and counsel. So whenever they need an update on their policies or they need me to review their handbook to make sure that they're compliant with both federal and state employment laws, I work with companies closely to do that and provide those services. And then on the intellectual property side, I work for everything under the IP umbrella, both on the transactional and the litigation end. So drafting copyrights, then also copyright infringement lawsuits, trademark applications, trademark infringement lawsuits, also trade secrets. Patents would be the only area that I don't work in. I have a very close colleague who I usually refer patent cases to because he's a patent prosecutor. But those are my focal practice areas and services, and you can reach me at vijalawplc.com. And my office is in Coral Gables. It's located at 815 Ponce de Leon, 3rd floor. And my office number, I don't know it from the top of my head, but my work email is rosa@vijalawplc.com.
Awesome. Well, I have one more question to ask you. And some might say it's the most important question of the show, no judgment, whatever your answer is. But Rosa, what is your favorite sandwich?
Probably a BLT. I think it meshes the best of all cultures. And it's kind of like a melting pot. Even though I think a BLT is a bit more Italian than anything, but it reminds me of a combination of a Cuban sandwich, a Colombian sandwich, and an Italian sandwich all in one. But maybe that's just my IP creative part as I'm eating a sandwich. So I would definitely be a BLT.
That's funny. I think you need to invent your own recipe and then protect it.
I agree.
Why not? Why not? Oh, this has been great. This has been great. There you have it, folks. Get a hold of Rosa if you are a business owner, if you have experienced wrongful termination, if you're an attorney that doesn't practice in these areas, please refer her your cases. She's going to do a great job. We already know she's setting herself up for success. Sky's the limit, Rosa. It's been a pleasure to interview you. And for those of you that are watching, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode of Care Sandwich.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Care Sandwich. Remember, the way we care for our clients, our teams, and ourselves can make all the difference in our success. Until next time, keep caring, keep growing, and I'll see you on the next episode of Care Sandwich.